Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
So, Chris, for August, we'll be reading Harvest of Time by Alastair Reynolds, which features the Third Doctor and Joe Grant. And it's also available as an audiobook read by Geoffrey Beevers.
Okay.
And it's sort of an anniversary book, having come out during the 50th and featuring the 50th anniversary logo.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
That'll be our book for August.
Excellent.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, July has been interesting. We had a minor car crash.
Oh, no.
Nobody hurt, but it does mean that we are now driving a replacement car. And for a hour-long journey today, the replacement car, whilst on the motorway, was saying, the boot is open, the boot is open. I'm like, well, car, that's not what I can do about it.
Wow. Well, I'm glad no one's hurt, and
Yes.
but yeah,
Yes.
it's got to be frustrating.
It's been fun, and we have a hire car because at one point we thought that our darling rabbit was going to be moving on to the rabbit farm or the rabbit field in the sky. Yes, rabbit field, that'd be better. Do not farm rabbits, it's not a good thing to do. But fortunately, she seems to be going around doing bunstruction and her normal stuff.
Oh, good. I'm glad Saunders is hanging in there.
Yes, yeah, she is hanging in there, but I do think that... Yes, at some point soon. But who knows? Maybe she might get to see David Tennant back as a Doctor. So, yes. Whether or not she'll see Bonnie Langford back as Mel remains to be seen.
Oh, well, hopefully.
Hopefully.
So we have some book news, some
Yep.
exciting stuff. Speaking of the David Tennant specials this fall, it's been announced that novelizations of the 60th anniversary specials are coming. So we've got The Star Beast by Gary Russell, Wild Blue Yonder by Mark Morris, and The Giggle by James Goss are all going to set to be published in January of 2024. And each book's going to have specially commissioned artwork by Anthony Dry, who's been doing the art so far for the new Targets.
Cool, very exciting.
Makes me wonder if there's going to be additional Target novelizations for some of Ncuti Gatwa's stuff, too.
I'm kind of assuming that that's what's going to be happening from here on in.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
And hopefully some of the back catalog will get novelized as well.
Yeah.
We also have a new listing that's appeared for Liberation of the Daleks, a graphic novel from Panini coming out in November. It's available to pre-order from Forbidden Planet, and listings have shown up on Amazon UK and Amazon Germany. And as hoped and as speculated for on this very podcast, Panini will be releasing the Fourth Doctor anthology, combining their previous Iron Legion and Dragon's Claw volumes. It'll be 324 pages featuring 16 Fourth Doctor stories. There's actually 17 Fourth Doctor stories, so there's some speculation as to which one is being left out. If one had to guess, I'd say it's probably Time Slip. And, of course, it'll include The Star Beast, and that comes out on November 2nd in the UK.
Very cool.
And then finally, the next deluxe illustrated Target novelization. So if you remember David Whittaker's Doctor Who and the Daleks got this treatment, might actually be Rose by Russell T Davies, and due to come out around the 60th anniversary date. That'll be interesting, especially seeing illustrations for a show. I would say so modern. I mean, it came out in 2005, but So kind of cool.
Cool.
So I think that brings us to show and tell. Chris, what do you got for us?
What have I got? Well, apart from the fact an actor who is about to play the Doctor is in the #1 film in the UK, which is kind of cool, but it would feel a little bit disingenuous maybe to bring Barbie as my show and tell.
I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it, though.
Yes. Yeah, so I have reviewed for the Horror Tree website the Doctor Who Doomsday comic, at least the first issue of From Titan by Jodie Hauser.
Is that the one with Missy?
It is the one with Missy in. And so if you enjoy Missy, I think it's a good comic. I must say I'm not really getting Doom herself as a character. She's not come to life really for me, and a little bit of me just kind of thinks if we're going to be doing an enormous crossover multimedia thing, it would make a bit more sense to use an established character, because I don't care about Doom, and I still don't care about Doom.
Well, maybe her character will be fleshed out a little bit more. I know there's an actual novel coming out in August with her.
Yeah, I think possibly so.
But yeah, that's a fair point. If it was a already established character,
it
might be a little easier to have an audience identification.
Yeah, I mean, if we were doing it around the Paternoster gang or something like that, then all right, cool. And also as well, having someone who is supposed to be the deadliest assassin in the universe, but is also designed to be approachable to children. It feels a bit like when the Punisher was appearing in the Spider-Man cartoons in the 90s. Are we sure that this works? I mean, I love Assassin's Creed. I mean, I wouldn't sit a 10-year-old in front of Assassin's Creed, but yeah. Anyway, right. So that's that. So if you go to the Horror Tree website, you can hear more of my thoughts, but certainly, those are my thoughts, really.
You mentioned the Paternoster gang, along with Missy, because Big Finish just announced their 10th Doctor entry into their Once and Future, their 60th anniversary series, featuring the 10th Doctor, Missy, and the Paternoster gang, which is kind of an interesting blend of 11th Doctor, 12th Doctor era with the 10th Doctor.
Yeah.
Looking forward to giving that one a listen.
Yeah. Have you heard any of those yet?
Not yet, no. So it'll be a ways off.
Yeah.
I bought the set and they've just been sitting in my ever-growing Big Finish pile of shame. So.
Cool. So, Matt, what have you got?
Last month, I was very much scrambling for something for show and tell. And this month, I have actually too many options. So I'm wisely going to save an item or two for a future month, even though there's a lot I kind of want to mention now. But my husband, Matt, was recently in France and Switzerland. He did not see the unique Miss Kitten, but he was leading a group of about 30 students across the country. And he did bring me home a wonderful souvenir from Paris. He got me a magnet featuring a painting from Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, I think I pronounced that right, which features a man in a floppy hat and scarf, which partially served as inspiration for the Fourth Doctor's costume. And it was also adapted for one of Paul Mars's Cottage Nest BBC audios with Tom Baker as the cover for the Demon in Paris installment. So thank you very much, Matt, for the perfect gift from Gay Paris.
Cool. Brilliant. Yes. An interesting time, I think Matt chose to be in France.
Yeah. He certainly picked a week to go there, that's for sure.
Yes. Dear listeners, if you don't know what we're alluding to, go and Google the news. It's been interesting in France.
Yes, they're having their George Floyd moment.
Yes.
So this month we're reading Harvest of Time by Alastair Reynolds. And I think he specializes in kind of hard sci-fi and space opera, doesn't he?
He does. I've read, I think it's Revelation Space, but that tends to be what he does.
And he has a PhD in astrophysics and also worked for the European Space Agency, and he resides in Wales near Cardiff. And his book series include Revelation Space, which you just mentioned, as well as Poseidon's Children and the Revenger universes. And I guess he's also written a number of standalone books and novellas and short stories. And 2 of his short stories were adapted by Netflix as part of their Love, Robots, and Death animated series. But yeah, this is the first thing of his that I've read.
Yeah.
And the structure of this book, it has a prologue, 35 untitled chapters, and an epilogue, and it's dedicated to all the masters, past, present, and future. And it's not really a spoiler because the Master's mentioned on the back cover and also by the end of the first chapter.
Yes.
And setting-wise, it's a little fuzzy, but it's set somewhere in between the demons and the sea devils. So kind of take your pick as to which story it slots into there.
Yeah, I would argue it doesn't slot into any of that. But anyway, we will discuss that further down the track.
Yeah, shall we get started?
Yes, let's get started. Our story begins on the planet Praxillion. Is that how we pronounce it?
That's how Geoffrey Beevers pronounced it.
Fair enough. If it's good enough for Geoffrey, it's good enough for me. Where we meet the elderly Queen Uxuri
Scooter, maybe?
Scooter, yeah. Uxuri Scooter, also known as the Red Queen, who has been extending her life artificially for 2 million years. The Queen is not from Praxilon herself, because she's humanoid, but her subjects, the Praxillians, are caterpillar-like creatures, several feet in length, covered in red and white striped fur. And the Praxillians have 3 genders, male, female, and sculptor.
We don't really get much info about the sculptor gender.
No, we don't. It's a cool thing
Yeah.
that's just put there and we don't, yeah.
And the furry caterpillars definitely reminded me of like Pertwee era aliens, like something you'd see on Peladon, or like the fuzzy purple Spiridons from Planet of the Daleks.
Yeah, they also, for me, were giving a bit of a season 21 vibe.
There's a ship in orbit above Praxillion known as the Consolidator that hails from an earlier era of space exploration and happens to be a time ship as well. And the ship is being studied, and its technology is being reversed engineered by the Praxillians in an attempt to rediscover the lost secrets of time travel, which by their era has it's like past the point of like mass time travel. But unfortunately, they end up freeing something else within the ship instead.
Dun, dun, dun. So back on Earth in the 70s or the 80s, we'll let you decide, dear listener. We meet Pat McGinty, who is from Aberdeen. And Pat is beachcombing at night and finds what he thinks is kind of a damaged toy. It's kind of like a metal crab. And then he finds another crab that's somewhat less damaged. And then the crab comes to life and latches onto the base of his skull, and turning him into a possessed man. And this possessed version of Pat starts referring to himself as Sild, who begins seeking out the Master.
And every time I read Sild, my brain just fills in Sill. So apologies if we dropped the D at any point in the pronunciation of this.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Brigadier dispatches the Third Doctor and Joe Grant and Mike Yates to investigate the collapse of an oil rig some 200 kilometers off the coast of Scotland. And with the oil rig collapsing, that reminded me a little bit of the opening to Terror of the Zygons. Kind of similar sort of vibes, I guess. And their helicopter lands on a nearby rig owned by the same company, where they meet up with Edwina, or Eddie McCrimmon, no relation to Jamie.
Oh!
Although the coincidence is marked upon.
Yes, the coincidence is marked upon. I mean, I don't think it's made clear that she is no relation to Jamie.
True, they don't actually spell out any relations, I should say. So
no, yeah, fair enough.
She could be a descendant, I guess.
Yeah.
And she informs the party from UNIT that the official explanation is that there was an industrial accident involving like a rogue bubble of gas, which disrupted the stability of the rig. And the rig was old and due for decommissioning anyway. And Pete Lomax, the worker who sent the distress call, he makes reference to something strange that the sea was doing at the time of its collapse, which aroused UNIT suspicion.
Back on the beach, we meet Inspector Archie Hawes, who is making a routine stop at a fisherman's hut to check on Pat McGinty, the beachcomber from earlier, and finds Pat kind of acting stiff and unnatural and claiming to be Sild and looking for the Master. And Pat says he wants to take the Master back to the future to go aboard the Consolidator, which was that ship in orbit round Praxillion. But before Archie can back away from this slightly eccentric conversation, a metal crab jumps off a shelf and latches onto Archie. And then the police officer becomes part of the Sild Collective as well.
They're dropping like flies.
Yes.
So back on the oil rig, the doctor and Joe decide to visit Pete Lomax, who had survived the collapse of the nearby rig and sent out the distress call about the sea disappearing. Pete described it like a trough or like a trench, something leaving like an invisible depression in the sea and displacing the water. And Edwina quickly wraps up the interview, thinking that her employee has kind of gone off his rocker.
Yes.
And she receives a phone call from her father, Cal McCrimmon, who is very much still running the company. And he was furious that Eddie had reached out to UNIT for answers because he's already working with the Ministry of Defense, and he's very much doesn't want to get like another bureaucracy involved.
Yeah, so after the Doctor and co wrap up their interview and return to shore, a Ministry of Defence helicopter lands on the rig. And it looks quite sinister, does this Ministry of Defence helicopter?
I also liked how it called out that the helicopter was like nicer and newer and sleeker than the UNIT one.
Yes, and one of the three men from the Ministry has got slick-backed hair, a goatee, and he's wearing a Nehru jacket and black gloves. I wonder who that is. Who could that be? So, yes, folks, it's the Master. And he's on loan from the prison to the MOD for this project that Cal McCrimmon is working on, which is something called Project Merman. And Project Merman has outfitted the McCrimmon oil rigs with some advanced submarine communication and detection equipment. And Merman stands for the Marine Equipment for the Reception, Modulation, and Amplification of Neutrinos.
So nothing to do with Masters of the Universe then?
No, sadly. And this equipment is supposed to be unobtrusive and not interfere with regular oil rig operations.
So then UNIT is briefed on multiple reports of strange things happening in the North Sea, including a large cloud hovering over the ocean, creating almost like a reverse waterfall effect where the sea is flowing upwards into the sky. And back on the oil rig, the Master slips away from the Ministry of Defense group long enough to visit the shaken Pete Lomax. And it's here where we have our dramatic reading, which is courtesy of the crispy Master himself, Geoffrey Beevers, and it's a short excerpt from the BBC Books audio release. So let's have a listen.
Good evening, Mr. Lomax. I trust I haven't disturbed you. The man sounded sincere enough, but no one who knocked on a door at midnight really cared whether or not they were disturbing someone. Of course they were. The man closed the door behind him. Lomax had been sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing pyjama bottoms and a vest, looking through a week-old tabloid newspaper. The sheer mundanity of the news items, football results, an actor's drunken rampage at a nightclub, had been soothing his thought processes. It was good to be reminded that there was a real world out there, over the sea's horizon. He'd had the main room light switched off, reading by the light of an Anglepoise lamp on the bedside table. He'd been finishing off a cup of milky tea with a shortbread finger perched on the saucer's edge. He could barely see the man who'd just come into his room. The man seemed to find the exact position to avoid being illuminated, as if the room's shadows were rearranging themselves to obscure this late visitor. "Can I help you?" "It's less of a question of you helping me, Mr. Lomax, than of me helping you." The man was dressed in dark, formal clothes. He was bearded and gloved. Lomax had seen him already, skulking around. "Are you working for McCrimmon? I don't think I know your name." "I am known universally as the Master," the man declared. The state of relative calm that Lomax had begun to feel, the sense that the worst was behind him, evaporated in a stroke. The man seemed to have brought dread with him. It was in the room, hovering like an invisible gas. "Oh, Wayman, I don't want to speak with you." "But we've hardly begun to get to know each other." The Master, if that was his name, stepped closer. You've had quite a turn, Lomax. They say you'll soon be returning to a hospital on the mainland. I regret to say that we can't let that happen." Lomax had had enough of this. He made to move from the bed, judging that he was easily the stronger of the two men. But the master was surprisingly quick. He placed a gloved hand on Lomax's shoulder, touching him gently. Although the contact barely registered as pressure, it was no stronger than the kind touch of a friend. Something in the master's hand compelled Lomax not to rise from the bed. He could only sit there, bewildered at his own paralysis. The master maintained the contact. With no particular hurry, he leaned over to reach the Anglepoise lamp and directed the beam into Lomax's face. "I am the master, and you will obey me." "Please," Lomax said. "The sea, the waves, Lomax, they're calling you even now. You feel that call. You feel powerless to resist it. You know deep down that you will not be content until you answer that calling." "I don't want—" The master's control over Lomax was now as absolute and binding as if he was working a puppet. He removed the gloved hand on his shoulder and touched his forefinger gently to Lomax's lips. "Shush now, there's a good fellow. We don't want you waking everyone, do we?" Lomax whimpered another plea, but the master only smiled. "It's so close now, Lomax. The peace of mind you've been searching for. Those waves are waiting to welcome you. Hear them crashing against the platform, urging you to join them. Why resist a moment longer?" "The sea. I have to go to the sea." "Yes," the master encouraged. "You must. You know it's for the best. But take your time. Finish your cup of tea." The master's vast experience told him that his hypnotic suggestion had taken sufficiently deep root. Seeing the almost willing ease with which Lomax had surrendered to his control, the master could not help but feel a microscopic fondness. He looked around, satisfying himself that there were no loose ends, content that Lomax could be left to follow his programming. He was about to leave the man when he spotted the shortbread finger still uneaten. He dunked the biscuit into the half-finished tea and popped it into his mouth, chuckling at his own excellent good fortune. He had been a prisoner for far too long. Never mind. That was all about to change. Good night, Mr. Lomax.
Thanks, Geoffrey, for reading that.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Quite chilling. The audiobook's available on CD and Audible and iTunes, so go get that, listeners. And Geoffrey Beevers also plays the Master in a number of Big Finish audios as well.
Plays him very well.
Yeah. So as we heard, the Master hypnotizes Pete and convinces him to take a long walk off a short platform. And his absence isn't discovered for some time. But he does leave behind a sketchbook with a crude, violent drawing of the Master on the last unfinished page.
Mm-hmm. Back on the mainland, the Slid have now expanded to 5 people, all dressed as police officers, having taken over a local police station. And we then learned that they've travelled billions of years and miles from the planet Praxilian. And the Sild aren't indigenous to Praxilian themselves, but they're trying to drain that planet's oceans and atmosphere over to Earth in an effort to terraform Earth into a water world. And the Sild continue their recruitment efforts, stopping a bus full of older tourists and unleashing their crabs upon the occupants in a slightly Delta the Bannerman-esque scene. So once the Sild infects someone, like the body is effectively dead, but the Sild can still access the host's memories.
Mm.
Yeah, it's getting quite grim.
And the Sild are these little tiny, almost seahorse-like creatures that are like driving the crabs.
Yes. Yes.
They're very bizarre.
Yeah.
One of the Sild is named Susan Cooper, and I wonder if the author chose that character name after Susan Cooper, the writer. Her fantasy books draw from Welsh mythology,
Oh.
the Dark is Rising sequence, the film adaptation of which stars one Christopher Eccleston.
Okay.
So I wonder if that was a deliberate choice, because not a lot of them are named, but she was.
Yeah.
And then also with the Master working for the Ministry of Defense and being his own scientific advisor for a rival organization, that gave me Iris Wildthyme and Meow vibes a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I also slightly wondered whether we were going to get some kind of reveal that he was working for Torchwood.
Well, Department C-19 does get a mention in this book, which was, I think, first mentioned in Time Flight and was part of Who Killed Kennedy, and they had the glass house and stuff.
Yeah.
So back at Unit HQ, personnel, including Yates and the Brigadier, start having some trouble remembering the Master, almost like there's a perception filter in place. And Jo picks up on this, but she isn't quite as affected as they are at first. And she brings this to the Doctor's attention, and he thinks that it might be something called progressive time fade, and not like a hypnotic suggestion or anything, meaning that the Master is somehow at risk for being wiped from existence. And around about here, too, Jo is described as Unit's civilian scientific liaison, and it's pretty obvious she's not military. Like, she doesn't have a rank like Corporal Bell.
Yeah.
But she did go to spy school for things like safe cracking and lockpicking. So I guess her background's always been a bit of a mystery to me, but it's kind of hinted at here, and they talk about her uncle helping her get the placement and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I know about her uncle. I mean, I don't know how good she is at kind of like lockpicking and whatnot. Trying to remember.
There's not a whole lot of call for that because the Doctor has his sonic. So.
Yes, this is true. This is true. So, yeah. So the Doctor and Jo take Bessie to visit the Master in prison, where the staff are starting to be affected by the time fade. And the Master's prison is not what you think of from the Sea Devils, but instead he's in a disused power station where there's a kind of like a high radioactivity level, specifically to keep humans away.
Yeah,
it's quite a cool location. And the Master denies leaving the prison, but the Doctor reveals to Jo as they're heading out that he detected a faint odour of crude oil in the Master's cell, which is the kind you might find on an oil platform. But they've been on an oil platform themselves.
Yeah. So maybe they're just smelling something on his own shoes or something.
Yeah. Or does the Master not wash? I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah. And the director of the Master's prison, Director Childers, I thought he might have been like the director from like The Mind of Evil or The Sea Devils or something. But no, I mean, this appears to be like a character unique to this novel. Yeah. And seems like maybe a missed continuity opportunity, I guess, to kind of tie that in.
So nearby, that bus full of sealed converted pensioners is careering dangerously down the road, heading towards the prison in search of the Master. And because there aren't enough people in the general vicinity, because we're kind of out in the countryside a bit, some sealed decide to take over cows. And they create this bovine roadblock around the prison facility.
Yeah. And the Silt running around in all these crabs, like my first inclination was, is the Mockra involved?
Yes.
Or something, given that they're a lot smaller crabs than were in those stories.
Yeah, but these are the kind of crabs that you get, like, certainly on the British coast, where they're probably like the size of your typical hand, that kind of thing, I think. Maybe a little bit bigger, but yeah.
The Doctor and the Brigadier, meanwhile, decide to head up the coast to investigate multiple waves of violent crabs washing up on the beaches. And Jo is back at Unit HQ, and she speaks to Eddie McCrimmon on the phone, who is in the process of evacuating the rig. But then Eddie is cut off abruptly because she's taken at gunpoint by Lovelace, who's one of the men from the Ministry. And at the same time, the Doctor on the beach is able to examine the crabs up close and confirms it's the Sild who are attacking. And he reveals to the Brigadier that the Time Lords had imprisoned the Sild, along with a bunch of other horrors and banned technology, on a ship thousands of years ago.
It's getting creepier and creepier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say, like, for the Time Lords, if you're going to exile a bunch of dangerous criminals, perhaps put them on a different ship than the ship with all the dangerous technology. You may want to separate those two things and build two ships, perhaps.
Yeah.
That may have helped avoid some of this.
Yeah, but also it's kind of like in with their MO, isn't it? I mean, they have form.
True.
Thinking that they've dealt with a problem and then, oh, whoops, no. So at the Master's prison, that bus full of Sild arrives and rams the gates, gaining entry. And the Doctor, he's got Benton in tow, but they're being slowed down by a herd of Sild-controlled cows. The TARDIS had been brought to the prison via lorry, and the Doctor makes a short hop back into the prison using the TARDIS. And he's not sure why the TARDIS is suddenly operational, because it might be because the Time Lords recognise the grave threat that the Sild pose to the universe. Or it might be due to the time fade interfering with the Time Lord's kind of block of like the ship's functions. And this short hop manages to bypass the waves of the Sild-possessed humans who are trying to attack the building. So the Master escapes with the Doctor and the TARDIS. And meanwhile, the Brigadier, who's over in London, calls in an airstrike, which completely razes the prison to the ground, destroying some Sild and some humans in the process. So, yes, reading this has reminded me, so this is the thing that had caused me confusion. I'd forgotten that we get an explanation in the narrative as to why the TARDIS is working.
The Doctor speculates, but I don't think the narrative ever tells us what it actually is.
Yeah, it's convenient for the story.
And when the Doctor does manage to get the TARDIS working, he's elated. And there's a wonderful description from Alastair Reynolds where he says, "The TARDIS tumbled through the vortex like a house brick tossed down a well." And I thought that was just a great little visual.
Yeah.
At one point, too, with this herd of cows, the unit soldiers just decide to slaughter them all. And that got me a little bit mad. And then when people started getting mowed down, too, even though they were possessed and beyond the point of no return, that felt very horrific and more gritty and adult, almost like a Virgin Missing adventure than, say, a new series novel.
Yeah. There's a hint of Mark Morris, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So then the Doctor and Master decide to team up against the joint threats of the Sild and the Time Fade, allowing the vortex to draw the TARDIS to the origin point of time spillage, which is billions of years in the future. And they find themselves on a ship orbiting a planet, and there they discover somewhere between 400 and 500 occupied suspended animation life support units. And these all contain variations of the Master in a variety of genders and species, not only his past and future incarnations, but also potential unrealized incarnations from other timelines as well. Yeah. So all of the Masters, past, present, and future.
Yeah. We even get what's potentially Missy. So this book was published in 2013, but we encounter what's described as a female version of the Master. And she wore a frilled black outfit, and her hair was black, veined in white, combed back from her forehead. And so the mask hid most of her face, but the Doctor recognized something in her cheekbones and brow, a family likeness. So, that could be Missy.
Yeah.
I mean, Missy doesn't really have that vein, though, does she?
Yeah, and I don't know that she had a lot of silver-streaked hair.
That's what I was meaning. But but that could be Missy.
Or if not her, I'm sure she's one of the many hundred that are.
Oh, yeah, yes.
There was another one that was described as looking like a politician that could have been the John Sims Master, perhaps.
I think that is the John Sims Master, yes. Yeah, because we certainly dwell on that one. So I think it's Alastair Reynolds like, I've watched the show since. So, that's quite the reveal, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the pods have failed, leaving burnt-out corpses, but others are still linked together, forming a kind of psychic gestalt of master consciousness, which is currently occupied with solving time-related equations. Which is in turn powering the Sild's invasion of Earth. And the Doctor and Master realise that they're on board the Consolidator, which is a ship that the Time Lords had banished to a faraway time and was presumed destroyed. It's also the ship that's on the front cover of the book. So yes, if you imagine a big science fiction ship,
that is it. Yeah,
that is it.
And there's a couple of interesting little tidbits we learn here too. Is the Master claims that he's never had any dreams, which is I don't know if he's always haunted by the sound of drums, but
maybe that comes later.
And then in terms of them traveling to the far future, the Doctor mentions at one point that he's watched the sun expand out to Mars and swallow the Earth. And that makes me wonder if he's referring to witnessing the events that the Ninth Doctor experienced at the end of the world. Maybe he was on Platform 2 instead of Platform 1. So back on Earth, Jo makes her way out to the oil platform again with Mikey Yates, and this time Sergeant Benton's joining them, unaware that the rig is now crawling with Syld infected humans who have taken over the workers. And the unit convoy on their way out encounters more destruction in the North Sea. One of the time displacement portals destroys one of the 3 helicopters in their group. Fortunately, not one with any of the series regulars on it. Yes. And the remaining 2 helicopters are able to land on the collapsing oil rig, and unit forces manage to rescue Eddie McCrimmon. And there's this kind of harrowing scene where Eddie's trapped in one of the secured mermen rooms, and the Syld outside is trying to type in a 4-digit number, and it's a 4-digit code, and he's starting from the 0 up. And then there's another door that leads to another chamber that she hopes to protect herself in, or at least destroy the merman equipment. So she's doing the codes from the top down and trying to outpace him. And I thought that was just kind of a cool high tension scene.
Yeah, because you don't know if Eddie's going to survive, because she's a McCrimmon, but she's not a McCrimmon we've met before.
And at one point, Eddie shares with Jo a bit about her childhood notebooks, which was kind of heartbreaking that Big Cal, her father, threw away her notebooks that were full of drawings and stories and fantasies, save one that was half finished. And she said that was the day her dreams died, which is really sad. But she does mention that the Red Queen on Praxillian shares the same name as the queen in her stories. So this immediately set my mind wondering, is this a Land of Fiction crossover? Or
yes.
What's happening here?
Yeah. Because she doesn't know of Praxillian at this moment.
Right.
Yeah, it's all rather strange. Yeah, it's also as well probably worth just emphasizing that the Brigadier and co are kind of assuming that the Doctor and the Master are dead at this stage.
Yeah, from the airstrike.
Yeah, from the airstrike. And Jo is hoping that the Doctor has survived because they've not found the TARDIS yet. And she's kind of thinking that there might be, that kind of suggests maybe they escaped.
Or that they're under a bunch of rubble, but if they made it to the TARDIS, they're still alive,
Yeah, so still on the rig, Mike gets injured by a shot in the face from a wayward Syld with a flare gun, which I don't know if you've ever seen a flare. That would
burn her.
That would really...
He would have some disfigurement, yeah.
Yeah, that would be really, really bad news.
I think it was a glancing blow.
I think even a glancing blow, but still. Anyway, so they now decide to evacuate. Well, they're already evacuating the rig, but they're kind of, things are carrying on apace. And Eddie decides to stay behind to ensure that the merman equipment is destroyed. And the destruction of the merman equipment doesn't shut down the various Syld portals entirely. But without the merman's beacon signal, it does seem to increase the time intervals between the portals appearing, and also as well decreases their accuracy. And so that's meaning that the Syld invasion is a little bit more scattered. And Eddie evacuates the rig in a saucer-shaped lifeboat. But then, unfortunately, her lifeboat gets sucked into a vortex right after she hits the water, which then closes up after consuming her ship.
Back in the far future, on Praxillian's surface, the Doctor and Master meet what's left of the ancient Red Queen. She's been held in a time bubble for 10 million years, awaiting the Doctor and the Master because the TARDIS had overshot the landing. And she confirms that Praxillian was invaded by the Syld, who escaped confinement from the Consolidator, and that they're using the Forbidden Time technology to gather various incarnations of the Master from across time and space.
And the Queen activates a spherical bomb that had been placed earlier on the Consolidator, and the resulting explosion can be seen from the planet's surface. And the Master cries out in pain and collapses from feeling a psychic connection with his other selves severed as the ship is destroyed. And we learn that his other incarnations, all of them been held in suspended animation, were aware of the passage of time and the fact that they've been spending 10 million years in captivity, being forced to perform those endless equations and functioning as circuits in a kind of master computer.
And there's a scene where the Master begs the Doctor not to take him back to the Red Queen. And for a moment, he's free from the other Master's, psychic influence.
Yeah.
And it felt very similar to the line we got from Sacha Dhawan in The Power of the Doctor, where he says, "Don't let me go back to being me."
Yes.
And that was just really heartbreaking and kind of chilling.
Yeah.
So the Red Queen gives the two Time Lords a tachyon ring, which is bound to its other particle pair 10 million years in the past. And the Doctor and Master set off in the TARDIS to find this earlier version of the Queen, hoping to avert this outcome in future. And the TARDIS trip back is successful because they have the tachyon signal to hone in on. And the Doctor convinces the younger Queen, and she's still pretty elderly, of his good intentions by giving her the ring from the future. He also reveals that he knows the Queen. She is indeed Eddie McCrimmon from the oil rig. Although, much like Lady Me forgetting that she was once a shielder, the Queen's forgotten her former self due to the passage of eons. And she gives the Doctor the same spherical bomb that she used to destroy the Consolidator in the future, in the hopes that he can destroy the ship now instead, and potentially avert that future timeline.
So the Master and Doctor take a space flyer from the palace on the planet's surface back up to the Consolidator. And once the flyer docks, the pair of them are escorted by Sild, who have taken over some of the other dangerous life forms on the Consolidator. And they waste no time plugging the Master into the machine with his other incarnations. And it's like the final piece of their puzzle is now complete.
And one of the other imprisoned creatures on the Consolidator is described as cactus-like. And my mind went both to Meglos and the kind of one of the odd-looking delegates from the Daleks' master plan.
Yeah.
But I suppose it could be one of the cactus people from the End of Time, too. But I try to forget about them.
Yeah. Go Meglos.
Chris, when did you realize that the Queen and Eddie were one and the same?
So, I wondered at first if the Queen was Jo.
Oh, almost like a Perry Gilliam sort of deal?
Yes. Yeah. Because when she first appears right at the very start, I kind of thought, oh, we're probably going to encounter you in this narrative, like before. And then when we were getting the stuff about Eddie having written those notebooks, I went, okay, all right. Yeah, how about you?
For me, it was a little bit later. It was when the lifeboat was described as saucer-shaped, because the Queen is like, this is the craft I arrived in, and it's saucer-shaped, and it's hanging in the Queen's chambers. That was the kind of the connection point for me there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhat Moffat-y, this book, isn't it?
It came out during the Moffat era, so.
Yes, it is very much Moffat and Mark Morris do units.
So on the Consolidator, the Sild decide to also assimilate the Doctor, but when the crabs start scuttling towards him, many time vortices suddenly open up and just pluck off the crabs one by one, hurtling them into the vortex and presumably oblivion and not some other planet where they can start invading. And the vortices are courtesy of the Master, who now has the upper hand and control of the Master network computer, as all of these Masters start laughing maniacally from their stasis pods, which is kind of a cool scene.
Yes.
And the Delgado Master then disconnects and frees himself from kind of the assemblage in triumph. As he has the ability to open wormholes wherever and whenever he wants. And the Doctor then threatens to use the explosive device to destroy the ship unless the Masters and Sild cease bombardment of the planet. The masters eventually turn on each other, uncertain as to whether or not the Doctor is bluffing about using the bomb. And unstable mini wormholes start opening up all over the ship, destabilizing its structural integrity.
So the Doctor and the Delgado Master escape in the flyer and head back to the planet, while the other incarnations of the Master start blinking out of existence, using their remaining energy to get back more or less to their respective times and places. And the Master and the Doctor watch the Consolidator break apart, burning up in the atmosphere as its orbit decays, remarking it's the second time that they've seen this exact ship blow up today.
Very timey-wimey there.
Yes, but also a bit of me is kind of thinking, if you did the job properly.
The Queen's palace was largely destroyed from the orbital bombardment, but the Master and the Doctor find a handful of Praxilians who are tending to their queen, who is near death. And the Doctor, with a reluctant help from the Master, uses this ancient technology that was brought down from the ship from earlier, called an infinity cocoon, to repair the Queen's injuries. And the Master's familiar with this equipment because he had used the same device to alter his genetic code to be able to override the SILD control prior to being plugged into the master computer, which is how he was able to take over that network.
Yeah, and the cocoon restores the Red Queen to the same age she was when she came through the Time Fissure. And so it's Eddie, as we know her, with ancient memories from Earth restored, and also partially remembering the memories from the millennia of her time as Queen on planet Praxilian. An interesting point here that we haven't really touched upon, in that Eddie in 1970s/80s Earth, she had lost, was it a couple of fingers?
Yeah, in like an oil rig accident.
Yeah, and those have now grown back.
Yeah.
Due to the cocoon, and she's kind of going, well, how am I going to explain this away?
And the Doctor's like, you may just have to wear gloves the rest of your life.
Yes, but like the gloves will still show.
Yeah.
Surely. Like if you're curling your fingers up, you've got to go, oh, that one didn't curl before. But anyway, yeah, with the palace collapsing around them, Doctor, Master and Eddie head back to the TARDIS, but the Master foolishly pursues the super bomb orb, which has rolled out of the Doctor's pocket down a corridor and into a chasm, and the Doctor leaves the Master behind on the planet, managing to steer the TARDIS long enough to kind of first drop off some Praxilian refugees in their distant past in an attempt to kind of like delay the Industrial Revolution, which had attracted the Consolidator to orbit the planet in the first place, or failing that, to convince their descendants to not attempt to reverse engineer the ship. So messing with time.
Yeah. and I don't know that scene was really needed in the narrative. Like they could have just gone back to Earth, but we can talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
So the Doctor then takes Eddie back to Earth, and so for a moment he's able to pilot the TARDIS again before the blocks and the locks come back on.
Yes.
And as UNIT is cleaning up the after effects and carnage of the attempted SILD invasion, Eddie decides to give a press conference where her father, after the whole working with the Ministry of Defense stuff is exposed and the rig's destroyed, has given her control of the company. Eddie gives a press conference where she commits her company to wean itself off fossil fuels and to explore alternatives, such as wind and solar instead. And of course, this is the early 70s, so this is all revolutionary.
Or 80s.
Or 80s. In either case, pretty revolutionary. Yeah. And she declares the company is no longer an oil company and is instead an energy company.
So this is kind of foreshadowing a little bit like what BP, one of the major oil companies, they have called themselves, I think, Beyond Petroleum. I don't know if that's still their actual name. I think they're still getting petroleum out, though.
Yeah.
But so the Master turns up in the crowd at the press conference. And as everyone's leaving, he reveals to the Doctor that he'd found an abandoned Type 40 TARDIS at the end of time, and it was one that had a malfunctioning chameleon circuit, though he'd quickly repaired it.
kind of implying that it could be the Doctor's TARDIS that
Yeah.
he has, which I
Yeah.
wonder, like, oh, did he pick this up from Capaldi or from Tennant or someone at the end of time? Yeah.
Yeah, and the Master bids farewell to the Doctor and Joe because he's off to kill the remaining MOD men who'd been torturing him. But before he can make his way to the TARDIS, he's surrounded by unit soldiers who place him back into custody. And the Doctor and Joe take off in Bessie, heading into the sunset, whilst the Master heads off to the Sea Devils.
And that's the story.
That's the story. So what do you make of that?
I do wonder why the Doctor didn't look for the Master's TARDIS at the end, or, at least grab his dematerialization circuit, because it was disguised as, I think, one of the BBC outside broadcast news vans that was covering the press conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was incredibly well written and easy to read. Despite being like 100 pages longer than our usual books.
Yeah.
The scene that we had for the dramatic reading, where the Master's hypnotizing that guy to death and casually eating the leftover biscuit from his tea, to quote Douglas Adams, exquisite, absolutely exquisite.
Yeah.
I also thought it was a good balance of kind of Earth story and alien planet story too.
Yes.
Which is something I was kind of wanting.
Yeah.
What were your kind of initial thoughts about it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was very well written. There are lots and lots of brilliant quotes. But at one point, the Master says to, I think the people on the planet, that you'll have to excuse my associate. He has this strange notion that it's perfectly acceptable for him to tamper in the affairs of other cultures, but utterly wrong for anyone else to do so. It's the worst kind of moral arrogance. And like, there's lots of lovely moments like that. And another wonderful bit was he did not call him Doctor then, just as the Doctor did not call him the Master. They had other names, strange and lovely as poems. And yeah, it's very well written, and it's also clearly like it's a bit lazy to say it's a love letter to Unit, but it's a love letter to Unit and Delgado's Master. And it's, I mean, yeah, sure, like the special effects are obviously a lot better. Yeah, there's no kind of like explanation. I mean, quite how like the Scottish economy recovers from all these oil rigs that have been destroyed.
Yeah,
but it's good fun. But I mean, but it also like there's a big old death toll.
Yeah, there's a lot more death and carnage than was, I think, typical of the era, and the after effects of an invasion like this would have been very substantial.
Yeah, I felt that I was in safe hands. I felt that this was the story that the author knew what he was wanting to do and how he was going to write it and tell it. And yeah, it was just meticulous, I thought.
Yeah.
So having said meticulous, there are one or two things, like, as you say, like, the TARDIS that was left over at the end. But I think there's a kind of case of, roll with it. We're telling a fun story here.
I did thoroughly enjoy it, especially the writing style. I did have a few gripes like that. Some of the pacing felt a little slow to me. Like, I don't know that we needed multiple chapters outlining all the security precautions in the Master's prison, for example.
I enjoyed those.
It felt a little Magneto plastic prison sort of.
Yeah, but I mean, it shows that Unit don't know how to deal with him, and that they're terrified of him. But also, like, that prison that gets destroyed is somewhat better than
what replaces it. Yeah.
Yes, but they've also presumably spent an enormous amount of money on setting that up.
Yeah. How would you score this one?
How would I score this? I will give this one a 9. I think. I mean, it evokes the TARDIS crew well, but I think that there's just like enough little bits that make me kind of go, it's definitely well worth reading, even though you've heard our synopsis by now. There's lots of lovely little gems in there.
Oh yeah, and subplots that didn't make the cut. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because like we could have talked about this for 3 hours, I think. Yeah. How about you?
For me, I would say an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I think my list of gripes is a little bit longer. Maybe I'll start with the positives. I really liked that about half the book was the Doctor and Joe, and the other half was the Doctor and the Master. Yeah. And so that was a nice double pairing that we got, and fantastic job of depicting both the Doctor and Joe and the Doctor and the Master's relationships. I really liked how the narrative had a point of view, with the author ruminating on themes like the dawn of the computer age, overfishing, the folly of torture, environmental themes.
Yeah, it was kind of like Malcolm Hulke in some ways, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the thoughtfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The characterization of some of the regular secondary characters, like Mike Yates and Sergeant Benton, felt a little off to me, where they seemed fairly generic unit soldier. Like, there's a scene where like Mike Yates is like eating a sandwich while he's giving a briefing to the brigadier, and he ends up throwing it away, and it seems like more of a mistake like Benton would have made as opposed to Yates. And I guess I would have liked to have seen some other unit regulars referenced, maybe Corporal Bell or Osgood, or even a young Private Bambera.
Yeah.
Something like that. His original characters, on the other hand, all got a decent amount of backstory and feel more complete. Edwina's elaborate childhood magical fantasies where she's a queen, the inspector popping around to the fishing hut as part of his regular patrol, all of those, were really well fleshed out. And there's even a scene where Edwina gets her notebooks at the end, where it's kind of implied that the doctor went back and saved them from the rubbish heap, perhaps, almost like Capaldi did with Bill and the photos of her mother.
Yeah.
Some of it did feel a little overcomplicated, like the dropping off of the refugees that I thought would have introduced more risk to the timeline, or parts of the Merman or Time Fade subplots. I feel like one of those probably would have sufficed.
I love the time fade though, like where people, because one thing we haven't said is that at some points UNIT have these giant posters of "Remember this man" with a photo of the master, because they're trying so hard to remember him, because they're scared as to what would happen if this actually is like some kind of weird master plot.
Yeah, I feel like he could have maybe taken the other masters further and had a little bit more fun with that, because at no point do any of the other masters wake up and interact with the Delgado master. It would have been cool to maybe have some sort of interaction between maybe him and, say, the Ainley master, or Derek Jacobi, or Eric Roberts, or even like a new incarnation. That might have been fun.
But it's interesting though, how would an author actually do it's a lot easier if you've got Missy, right? Because you can say Missy and the master, because like it would probably need to be the Sims master.
You could say like younger, older, maybe.
Yeah, or the blonde master or whatever. Yeah, because like if you've got the Anthony Ainley master, you're going to have to be going some to explain which one you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure, if you've got the TV movie one, then you could say, yes, this master had an American accent for no obvious reason.
Flicking fingernails here and there. Yeah.
Yes. So he was dressed for the occasion.
Yeah.
The
doctor did seem more able to, steer the TARDIS more accurately, but I kind of chalk that up to some of the adjustments the master made to the console. He's like, this setting's wrong, this setting's wrong, this setting's wrong.
Yes. Yeah.
And the only other kind of dangling plot thread for me was what happened to all the additional water that was introduced on Earth that would surely cause sea levels to rise, not to mention that there would be like presumably Praxilian aquatic life mixed in, which would have upset Earth's ecological system. So, I guess an 8 out of 10 for me, but it was really well written. It was fun to read. And like you said, it felt like we were in safe hands. And in the year that it came out, it won the DWM poll, which was published in issue 479, showing that the readers had selected it as the best fiction book of that year, which was 2013 and an anniversary year. So there was a lot published that year.
Yeah.
So definitely recommended.
Yeah, I mean, we've not read all of the stuff that was published that year, but I suspect it probably was the best.
It was better than Shroud of Sorrow.
Yes, there were less clowns in this one.
Yeah.
But that also too, that has a kind of like, that has an invasion, you're going back to another planet. But this doesn't have like a weird tonal shift. It all feels of the same piece.
Yeah.
I've never read the Michael Moorcock book, and I gather this is possibly not the finest Doctor Who novel.
I've heard that too, like when you were mentioning like we were in safe hands with this author. That's where my mind went, was his book, and how sometimes when you bring in like a well-known guest author, it's kind of hit or miss. Depending on how much of a fan of the show they really are. But here, Alastair Reynolds really did feel like he was a fan of this era. And
or be given a very good briefing.
Or watch some key episodes.
Yes. It makes me want to go and read some more Alastair Reynolds at some point. But
definitely.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Cool. Excellent. Right. So I think maybe we hear what feedback.
Yeah, it's time for some listener feedback. We have a new email from Kenny from the Pieces of Eighth and the Power of Three podcast. And I'd like to correct the record because last month I said Kenny sent us an errant dramatic reading, but it wasn't Kenny, it was a Keith. Both 5-letter names starting with K, and I was reading too fast, so my apologies, Kenny. Kenny said he loved our Bad Therapy episode. For years, he felt he was the only one who could see how brilliant the novel is, with so much heartache, joy, and every other emotion in between. He's delighted that it's not just him, and he says it's an easy 10 out of 10 from him as well. He's always pictured the taxi giving chase as being like Chugaboom from The Perils of Penelope Pitstop, the way it would have climbed the walls and so on, giving that wonderfully ridiculous quality to a scary story, proper Doctor Who. And he also says that the Power of Three podcast has a special month planned coming up in the lead up to the November anniversary. They're going to feature one book every day with exclusive chats with various book authors. And about half the recordings are already in the can. And some of the books may have also recently featured on our show, which is a nice coincidence.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Thanks, Kenny. We also have a second email from Jen in Ohio again. She writes of Bad Therapy that she agrees with our average of our rankings and says that it's one of her favorite new adventures. And then she says, regarding Perry mistaking Jack Bartlett for one of the Doctor's companions, she says it makes sense, especially for the character of Perry, because most of the other companions that Perry met during her era, like Turlough in Planet of Fire and Jamie in The Two Doctors, and even Frobisher, have all been male.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Bad Therapy was written well before Aramem was introduced in Big Finish, so yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
How about on the Facebook side?
So Facebook side, so we heard from Jeff Elson, who said that the Bad Therapy podcast was a great episode and definitely made him want to finally read this book, which he has, but has never actually got round to reading.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, that's cool. So what about Twitter or X or whatever we call it?
Well, if I never update the app on my phone, it'll stay Twitter, right?
Well, it can't be called X because, I mean, the logo may change, but it can't be called X because I think certainly iPhones, you can't have like a one-letter app. So anyway.
And also, we're not recording the end credits bit where Lauren mentions Twitter either, so we'll just call it Twitter.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've heard from Jared Cooper on Twitter, who says he really enjoys the podcast, mostly because he'd love to be in a monthly Doctor Who book club, but people can be jerks. He may or may not have used a stronger descriptor than that. Chris, I think I've lucked out because you've been a fantastic book club member and co-host, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And we also heard from Keith Say on Twitter, who thanks us for the incredibly depressing Bad Therapy podcast. And says he remembers finding the book a well-written but dispiriting experience all those years ago the first time he read it. And I think that brings us to what we're going to be reading next month. And Chris, I have a small clue, given that you recently asked to get a copy of the book club reading list, so I have to assume it's from one of 4 ranges in particular. But apart from that, I don't know anything.
Yeah, and you might be wrong entirely, because I might have changed my mind. So I have heard a rumor that Donna Noble's coming back.
I've heard that rumor as well.
Yes. So I wanted to get reacquainted with Donna.
And I know there aren't that many Donna Noble books out there, too, so...
No. So we are going to be touching on a book by an author who we've discussed already today.
Okay.
So we are going to be experiencing Ghosts of India by Mark Morris.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it is available in ebook, audiobook, read by David Troughton. Yeah, Ghosts of India, Matt.
Excellent. Very much looking forward to that. And
yes,
it'll be interesting, too, to see how Mark Morris handles a new series.
Yeah, with a slightly different tone, maybe. Or not. Maybe it's going to be...
I'm assuming it's going to be horror-related, but I can deal with it. It's okay.
Yeah, it also appears to be set in 1947.
So I wonder if it's going to be partition related.
I think there may be a little bit of partition-y stuff.
Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, Ghosts of India. And speaking of David Troughton, reminds me that he was in a TV show recently, and my mum was trying to remember his name, and she said, "Oh, yeah, that actor you like, that actor you have a connection to." I was like, an older actor, and we looked through the IMDb, and eventually, because he wasn't listed on the Wikipedia page, and then I went, "Oh, do you mean David Troughton?" I went, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah."
From Midnight.
Yes, yeah. So
Wow.
it was like she felt that she hadn't seen him in something in ages. A lot of times when I'm reading books for the podcast, I'm on public transport, and I often alternate between that and non-fiction books, so I'm not getting confused. I may need to go for a lighter non-fiction book to balance Coast of India. I don't know anything about it, apart from when it's set.
Well, it's certainly timely, and it'll get us in the mood for Donna coming back. So
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, for September, Ghosts of India.
Yeah, Ghosts of India. Yeah.
And until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota.
And I've been Chris in South London. Happy reading. Stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
I've had an interesting day. My mobile phone provider decided to, because it's going bust, and it decided to switch off my data.
That's not good.
That's not good, no. And it told me that after I just completed a half marathon and was then needing to drive home.
It has been a day.
It has been a day, yes. So, yeah, that was fun. But anyway, right. And I did the half marathon by where the Magna Carta was signed. So I was picturing the King's Demons as I was running along.
Excellent.
Is it slid or silled? I can't remember. And I'm having issues.
It's silled.
Silled. Okay. Yeah. So back on the back on the mainland, the silled.
Hi, Felix. This is me, the unique Miss Kitten from France or Switzerland.